This next story is so toxic in the sense that it confirms that there's an entire political movement for whom politics is just sport and friendships and cronyism, and that nothing about actually helping people or doing what's good for the country matters. And I'm going to cover it because it is important, but for different reasons than some of the headlines are suggesting. So Anthony Scaramucci went on CNN yesterday. And breaking news, he says he's no longer supporting re-election for Donald Trump. He's still a Republican. He likes Trump's policies, which is just hilarious, but that someone else maybe should run for the Republican Party in 2020. And I have to hand it to CNN's John Berman, who was interviewing him. Berman exposes that this is just a personal problem between Scaramucci and Trump. It doesn't really have anything to do with Scaramucci now finding Donald Trump's behavior deplorable, which every normal person should, by the way. This is sport, and Scaramucci's relationship with Trump has soured. Now, the backstory is Scaramucci's a longtime Trump supporter. He was briefly White House communications director about 10 or 11 days. And since being removed from that role so quickly, or resigning, he maintained support for Trump. Over the weekend, Scaramucci made some very light criticisms of Donald Trump's visit to El Paso, which was a horrifying visit. I mean, Scaramucci was wrong in that he didn't criticize Trump enough, quite frankly. And Trump fired back saying Scaramucci knows nothing about me and all sorts of other stuff. In comes Scaramucci on CNN and starts to sort of sound anti-Trump.
Anthony, last week when I asked you if you still supported, and the answer was yes. This morning, when I asked you if you're calling for a change at the top of the ticket, you said it should be considered. So are you no longer, as of this morning,
it should
supporting?
Be considered. I'm in a neutral. I'm now in a. I'm a Republican, so I'm not switching parties to support a Democrat. I believe in the values and the policies of the Republican Party, but I'm now neutral on the president.
You're now neutral on the president.
Let's see how he continues to act, and if no, oh, absolutely. You have to get into a neutral position. And
all right, so you are no longer an active. You are no longer, Anthony. I just don't want to pass this by. So you are no longer an active supporter of President Trump in his re-election bid.
Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious from over the weekend. I mean, the guy's actually dissembling a little bit, and he's sounding more and more nonsensical. And, we're sort of anesthetized to it, and people inside are watching, oh, yeah, that's just President Trump. Just let him act like that.
He's still a terrible person. He still believes in the values of the Republican Party. He still believes in Donald Trump's policies, but he's changing his tune on Trump. But then John Berman points out, and I'm glad that he does it. Hold on a second, Anthony. Nothing has changed as far as Trump. All of the reasons that you are claiming are the reasons you no longer support Trump or are backing off of Trump have been the case forever. Trump's language, Trump's tone, Trump's handling, all of this stuff. The only change is that you and Trump got into an argument over the weekend on Twitter, and here is how Anthony Scaramucci responds.
I was going to say, so the one intervening event over the weekend was you had a Twitter exchange with the president where he criticized you directly. All the other stuff is stuff we've seen from President Trump for years at this point, from when he was before president. So what changed exactly over the last 2 days?
Okay, so you and Allison have often asked me that, and people say, well, okay, where's the red line where you break from your support from somebody? Because remember, loyalty is symmetrical.
Right.
It's not asymmetric. And so what I said to you last week was, geez, this is really polarizing. This is very, very divisive. As a supporter of his, I would caution that we not go in this direction. You brought up stochastic terrorism in our last interview, and I suggested, okay, I can understand how this charged rhetoric coming from the bully pulpit of the presidency could lead to some unintended tragic consequences.
So that's the reality. Long story short, he's no longer a supporter of Donald Trump's reelection. Big win. Wow, stunning news. One dude who worked for Trump for 10 days no longer supports reelection. But the change isn't really the surprise because nothing has changed in terms of Trump. Scaramucci isn't against the politics of Trump. He's not really against the style of Trump or the idiocy of Trump or anything else or of the Republican Party. This is just what happens when it's all about your tribe, your buddy, who scratches your back. Scaramucci endlessly said in this interview, the policies are great, Republicans are great, I'm a Republican, everything's great. No, they aren't. You're just now mad at Trump. You're feuding and getting attention, and you're no longer supporting re-election. And by the way, him saying he's neutral, like he's no longer a supporter of Trump's reelection, but he's neutral on it. Neutrality? Are you serious? Neutrality is being complicit in a case like this. And this is a real difference between the left and the right. Last week, I told you about Republicans in Texas trying to cover up a secret recording of Republicans talking about a hit list. So let me just remind you what that was. In Texas, I believe it was a Republican PAC guy went to the Republican Texas State Speaker of the House, I'm going from memory, and they recorded a conversation where they were talking about a hit list. What Republicans do Republicans want to target in primaries in Texas? And the Texas Republican Party, Texas Republicans at large and national Republicans decided after hearing the tape, wow, this is really damaging. We need to cover this up and make sure that no one ever, that the tape never sees the light of day. On the left, we would want that recording out immediately, okay? If I found out that there was a recording of Bernie or Warren or whoever saying horrible things, or of some left-wing group conspiring to do whatever, I want to know who's toxic. I want to know who's destructive. I want the tape out. We need to get these people out of our movement and move on as soon as possible. For the right, it's just sport. And this is another example. Does Anthony Scaramucci actually believe that Donald Trump's policies are good for the United States like he says? Maybe. Maybe he always has. Maybe he never did. But it's what he's saying, and it's not even really what's at issue because it's just sport. It's checking boxes. It's winning friends. Scaramucci lost a friend, and now he's neutral on Donald Trump being reelected. These are truly sick and amoral people, but that's what makes them hard to fight. We've got to find a way to do it, but it is just sport. It's checking boxes. And even when they back off of supporting a bad candidate or bad ideas, it's rarely actually because of a change of heart. It's some kind of interpersonal conflict, as we're seeing here.